You're listening to Pop This, the podcast where two women talk about everything pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen and Andrea Warner.
So I've been watching the World Figure Skating Championships this week.
Naturally.
And
don't be offended that none of us have been, but anyway.
Well, I mean, they're happening in Sweden, so it's the middle of the night.
Oh my God, are you getting up in the middle of the night?
Well, that's the only way you can watch them.
Wow.
Yeah. It's been, because last year the World Figure Skating Championships were supposed to happen in Montreal, and they were canceled. I had tickets to go. I had been planning the trip for like a year to go with my sister. We were going to make it a whole thing, and then they were canceled. And so because of the pandemic, there hasn't been a lot of skating to watch. And this is like the first sort of major competition in a year. And I have to say, the scores so far have been a little upsetting and inexplicable.
Do you have a newsletter that gets sent to you, or how do you keep up on the figure skating news?
Well, there's a lot of podcasts. I listen to 2 different podcasts.
Right.
There's like a YouTube TV show I watch that CBC puts up. I think it's called Skating Time or something like that. And they recap all the competitions. Yeah, and Jackie Wong's Twitter, like he live tweets every event and live tweets all the practices, and he tells you like the exact jumps and spins and everything people are doing in practices. And he is like the skating authority on Twitter.
Amazing.
Now, you said that the scores have been bonkers, but my guess was going to be that it's just that I thought maybe the competitors were a bit rusty with a full year of not competing, and perhaps the scores were reflective of that. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's part of it. But, for instance, today, I know this podcast won't come out for a week, but today the women's event started, and the people you were expecting to do really well didn't do very well. And some people skated really well and their scores didn't reflect how well they skated. And the person who won, technically wasn't as, her technical content wasn't as high as the people that she is ahead of. And so I think there's a lot of hand-wringing and consternation amongst the figure skating fandom.
Wow. Is it like political, or is it the judges are they just like screwing up somehow? Like what's happening?
Well, that's a really good question.
But do you think it's because it has to be like both on technical merit and artistic merit? Like, is that where the subjectivity comes in that can be sort of like, for lack of a better pun, skated around? Like you can just sort of, sorry, but like, you can just.
Well, because I don't know if you remember, but like they used to have like the perfect 6 kind of score system.
Yeah.
So they overhauled it. And now it's like this super complicated system where like every movement and element is graded. And it's all like, it's so complicated that like a super fan like me doesn't fully understand the marking system because it's just too complex.
Diving, isn't that also scored?
Oh yeah. But is it only technical, or is it artistic as well?
Diving?
I don't think there's artistic diving.
No, but that's
they do all those twists and turns. They're all quite different.
But that's like technical though, right? Like that's still like I'm just thinking about sort of like how skating breaks it down between like an artistic score and a technical proficiency score, and like what other sports like afford. I know that other sports do it. I'm just like blanking on what those might be. Or I think other sports do it. I don't really know sports that well, if I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I was just going to say, this is the most non-sports podcast ever.
Yeah.
Except for I just mentioned, all I know with diving is, because whenever the Olympics are on, I'll pretty much just turn the TV on and watch anything that's a sport. And I'll be like, oh, okay, guess I'm watching diving now. And I'm just looking for the splash, right, at the end. Because if their feet are completely perfect, there's no splash.
Yeah, it's just
that's
like
what
the
I
pool
love.
swallows them in, and there's like
Yes.
never they disappear.
Not even a drop.
Not even a ripple.
No.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
it seems
Isn't
like
it?
an impossible like act of physics, though. You know what I mean? Like it just
Yeah.
like it's incredible.
Well, I'll tell you, I think there was actually for a while, we could Google this, but I just want to say it because maybe it's not true and it's still fun. We know that there's Dancing with the Stars. There was, I think, figure skating with the stars, right?
Stars on
that
Ice,
was a
isn't-
show.
or-
Stars
or-
on Ice, yeah.
But no, but
And
there
then-
was like the figure skating competition. I think CBC Stars on
Yeah,
Blades.
Blades, yeah.
Battle of the
Battle
Blades.
of the Blades.
Yeah, Battle of the
Blades.
Blades.
And I do think for a time there was Diving with the Stars.
What?
Yeah.
I don't. What? I don't.
Okay, I'm doing that now.
No.
Yes.
I don't recall a Diving with
Diving
the
with
Stars.
the
Like that would be
Stars.
incredible. I remember Circus with the Stars.
Here it is, Diving with the Stars.
Diving with the
It was called Splash.
What? Are you kidding me? When was this
No.
happening? Tell me more.
Okay. It was on ABC. It's based on it was Celebrity Splash, it was called. It was a Dutch show first called TV Total Turnspringen. That was the first competition. But the only reason I remember this because I watched The Real Housewives. So Kim and Kyle Richards from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills were actually on the show called Diving with the Stars.
Oh wow! And so, what year was Diving with the Stars or Celebrity Splash?
2015.
It's that recent?
Yeah.
How did this bypass me entirely as like a potential reality competition?
It was actually called Stars in Danger: The High Dive.
Oh.
It was a 2-hour celebrity diving reality competition special.
Okay, so it's a one-off special. It wasn't like on for a long time.
No, I don't think it was, but
like,
it happened.
I went through a real phase of like when I was a kid, I loved Circus of the Stars. Like every year, like there would be like the annual like circus evening, and like a bunch of your favorite sitcom stars would have learned circus acts, and you would watch them perform them. It was very exciting. And I didn't realize that there was also a show called like Battle of the Network Stars. Anyway, both of these exist on YouTube, and you can like watch these old episodes, and it's really fun and ridiculous to see like a ton of different people who were at the time typically like if you've never seen Telly Savalas competing in tiny shorts and a white shirt, you have to watch Battle of the Network Stars. Like it's
okay, I'm gone. I'll be back in a few minutes.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. When you say Telly Savalas,
Honestly,
I'm done,
it's
right?
incredible. It's incredible.
Why do we want to see stars skate, dive, and dance? I don't like.
Battle of the Network Stars, to be fair, they were doing like, it's basically like as if you had a sports day. So there was a swimming competition, like a higher level sports day. There was a swimming competition, like a rope tug of war, like a relay race, a volleyball maybe competition, like beach volleyball, and a few other. There's like 6 or 8 different sports you have to compete in. Oh my god! And actually, I remember one of the episodes. Maybe it's the Telly Savalas one. It also has Penny Marshall competing, and it's so fun to watch Penny Marshall compete in like just like, oh my god, it's great. It's really honestly wonderful waste of time.
Wow. So if anyone wants to hire like Pop This to do some like Battle of the Podcast Stars or something like that.
I'll never compete, but I would love to narrate and color commentary. Because that gross guy is the one hosting it, the sports gross guy.
Howard Cosell.
You're right.
Yeah.
Howard Cosell is the host of Battle of the Network Stars. And he's perpetually gross. Just as you would imagine.
That's what we are looking for.
Yeah.
That's all we want. So we'll just do some skating, and Andrea, you will be the best skater. You'll win. It'll be a very small competition show. There's just a few of us, but
yeah, I can't say that I'm gonna be able to compete in anything good.
We'll compete against like Graham Clark and Dave Shumka. Skating.
I love it.
I'm
gonna vote for you versus Graham for the figure skating competition, and then it's definitely like at the next pod festival.
Lisa and Dave could do the diving competition.
I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This. And we are very excited today to talk about a show that is somewhat new to some of us, somewhat longer beloved to others, Superstore. And it's ending. So classically, we are chiming in at the end. I love that approach, honestly. But a lot of people are discovering this show for the first time in quarantine and in pandemic times, and realizing how funny and wonderful it is. And we're also so excited to have a wonderful guest today who has personal experience at an actual Superstore long time ago. Lisa Chen-Wing, welcome.
Hello, thank you. I shop at stores too, but I also worked at one for a short amount of time.
You shop at stores too. Oh,
I do.
Do tell.
Way to brag. Way to just get right off. While we have you, why don't we read your bio and then go into sort of what the episode's about? So I'm just going to dive in here if that's okay. Lisa Chen-Wing worked at the Real Canadian Superstore on Marine Drive in Vancouver in the late 90s. Around the same time, she started a zine with Andrea Gin. She left the Superstore to go to art school, became an advertising art director, and won several awards for her work. And occasionally, she returned to the supermarket space for photo and commercial shoots, but is now just a shopper. Currently, she makes picture books and draws the webcomic Whiny Whiny Pancakes. Yay!
Yay! Welcome.
Thank you. I feel so warmly welcomed, as though you are a greeter at a superstore.
Do I need my flash?
I
here,
honestly
or?
have always thought that's the one job I could do okay, like in a large big
Oh
box
my god,
setting.
that's the one job I could never do okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
The great thing about a superstore, though, is you don't need to do anything okay. You just have to be a body.
We just have to field the questions. I think I just saw a mouse. Yeah, you did, for sure. There are lots of them here. That's what one guy said to me.
Oh my god. Wow.
Well, I mean, fair. Well, like, wow, lady, you saw a mouse. Ooh, like, look at this place.
You know what? That's a totally fair point. I mean,
It is.
It's just nothing. It is a little mouse heaven, isn't it?
It is. We
And
should
rats.
Ooh.
Oh, okay.
I just watched that episode to get ready for this. I just watched the episode where there's a bunch of rats, and that is one of my things that I saw at the Real Canadian Superstore. A big old rat.
Oh
Sorry.
my god. Terrifying.
And I'm not talking about my boss. No. I just want to mention too that we don't want to be too confusing because there are two Andreas and two Lisas.
Yeah, but everyone at home, you get to decide which voice belongs to which person.
Yeah, we're not going to help you at all.
Nope, not at all. I love it. I love it when there's we're all to the power of two. I think that's great. Lisa, would you enjoy reading about the background of Superstore just to give everyone
enjoy that.
some information?
Yes, some information. This is from Wikipedia. Superstore is an American sitcom television series that premiered on NBC November 30th, 2015. The series was created by Justin Spitzer, The Office, Scrubs, Queer as Folk, etc., who served as an executive producer for 4 seasons, starring America Ferrara, who also serves as an executive producer, until her departure in the 6th season, and Ben Feldman, who also serves as a producer. Superstore follows a group of employees working at Cloud9, store number 1217, a fictional big box store in St. Louis, Missouri. In December 2020, NBC announced that the 6th season would be its last. The series finale is scheduled to air, from when we're doing it tomorrow on March 25th, 2021.
I gasped when I read this, when it said that she departs in the 6th season. I was like, what? How can Amy depart?
But that's totally the thing. There are spoilers galore because you can't really avoid it. And I'm someone who I've only watched the first 5 episodes of the series at all. But I also find it sort of similar to Schitt's Creek. Spoilers don't really bug me hugely when it comes to a comedy. Because I love the characters so much that it distresses me that Amy leaves, but it doesn't like ruin the show for me. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, it's like you can get involved in the arcs of like Friends or mention The Office, or you could just watch an episode and still laugh.
Yeah, I guess so. I just, because I'm deeper into it. Like, I just got into season 4.
Oh.
And like, Amy is such, like, she's so the heart of the show. When I read that, I was just like, what is this show like without Amy? Like, Amy's in every episode.
You got your, you found out because they just canceled it. So there you are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. AG, do you want to read the synopsis?
Sure. Superstore's namesake setting is Cloud 9, a Target/Kmart/Walmart-esque labyrinth of unethically manufactured consumer goods, staffed by a motley crew of misfits. America Ferrera's put upon working mom Amy, recession-stranded business school bro Jonah, teen mom Cheyenne, and overeager suck-up Mateo. I love Mateo. Comedy about the working class has been a staple from Good Times to Roseanne, but Superstore switches its focus from the lifestyle of hardship to the soul-sucking dead-end job that barely furnishes it. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading today.
Cool.
And like its predecessors, it knows soul-sucking and dead-end aren't contrary to comedy. They're ideal facilitators of it.
And that's from the 2016 Ringer article by Allison Herman. I know it's not our traditional synopsis, but I just thought it did such a good job of sort of encapsulating what the series is about that I just nabbed it from her.
Yeah.
So as I've never worked at the Superstore, and I think only one of us did, is soul sucking and soul destroying a good description of how you felt working there?
Absolutely. But I also worked in advertising for a really long time, and I think it's the same. It's just working. It's
working
really
for the
hard.
man every night and day is just always going to be a challenge.
Capitalism is so draining.
Yeah, you're totally right. Like capitalism is the worst, and I love how much this show sort of like explores capitalism as like as a true like evil, like without being really, I don't know, preachy about it.
Mm-hmm. But so, Lisa, do you feel so far that the show is like, do you relate to it, or you're like from when you were working there? Like, does it feel accurate to you?
Well, one of the things that I really like about the show that's mentioned in most of the profiles is that it has a racially diverse cast, and like the management is almost 100% white, which is like what I've seen in every store I've worked at. All of the managers were white pretty much. And the people that I worked with, it was South Vancouver, was like a lot of South Asians, a lot of Filipino people, and me. And it's just like, it's working in a place like that, working retail, you experience people who aren't necessarily from like upper middle class, who aren't probably going to go on to like the bigger careers, but they're working there because they all need money. And a lot of people are students, and it's terrible because you're working for minimum wage. You feel like you're working for minimum wage. People treat you like you're working for minimum wage. One time I wrote punk rock on my fingers because I was bored, just on my knuckles. And this old white man said to me, "That's not very professional." I was like, of course it's not very professional. I'm working in the photo department of the Real Canadian Superstore.
Gosh.
Yeah, the facade of professionalism when you're getting paid like...
Did you have to wear a smock?
We didn't wear a smock, but we did. This was before Superstore had Joe Fresh. They did have a clothing line that you had to wear the clothing of, because I was in the photo development department. So we had like a we didn't have a smock, but I think the cashiers may have had smocks. We just had to buy the clothes. So I found a t-shirt that was on sale for $3, and I wore that every single day that I worked there.
Oh.
How long did you work there?
I think it was about 6 months, but it felt like a lifetime.
But okay, so photo department on Superstore, the photo department is basically where all the characters go to have sex.
I did not experience that part of it, but what they do also accurately show is that people do bring in a lot of naked photographs to get developed. And also when I worked there, it was in the film days. So it's not like people could just print it out at home. They would bring it in, and then they would wait around the department and say, "Are my photos ready?" Because you had the option of 1 hour processing. And so I had this couple one day, and I was like, okay, I'll go check. And I climbed up the little ladder because the developing part was like on a higher level. And I was like, oh, these people want their photos. And she was like, the woman working the machine was like, oh, do you want to see them? And I was like, okay. So she showed them to me, and I was like, oh, my eyes. And then I had to take them down to the couple that was waiting very excitedly for their photos. So yeah, it's the glory days of film. And you don't get that so much with digital.
What a lost art. That's so sad.
What a lost art of you were already getting paid minimum wage and now you're even more soul destroyed.
Oh, yeah. But also the woman who worked in the developing machine also told me that she like caught predators because she had the duty to report if someone brought in pictures that were like, she said she called the police once because there was like a man had brought in these pictures of like children in their underwear and they were all like different ethnicities and didn't look like his children. So terrifying stuff.
Terrifying stuff. Yeah. I'm glad there was a duty to report though, honestly, because like I've worked in jobs that like there was like you were not allowed to report, and that
I'm not sure if she had a duty to report, but she did. So
okay, good.
That was
good for her. That is fantastic. I appreciate that.
Can I just say this honestly, and I'm not going to feel shame for it, but I actually do enjoy shopping in big box stores.
That's fine. Like no shame.
Good.
No shame.
Like I just really enjoy a day. Like to me, the idea of like going to Costco is kind of like an outing. I sort of get like, ooh, Costco. Sorry, I just and I know that you're meant to relax in the forest or something, but I also just find just that wandering with a cart through aisles and just looking at things, I find it very peaceful. I find it very distracting. I can't think about much else. I'm sort of like, dazzled by all of the things that I could put in my cart. I don't know. There's just something sort of freeing about it. It feels, I don't know. I just feel like I can have anything and do anything, but I'm not I'm not like thinking about like, okay, I'll go to the forest sometimes, but then I'm like, okay, be in the forest, like breathe the forest. And I get distracted by the trying hard to be like a person in the forest.
When you want to be a person in a grocery store.
But I want to be a person in a grocery store where I just feel like I all my cares are so far behind me. I just can wander these aisles with my cart. And anyway, that's my confession.
I mean,
you can take a cart to the forest.
I was just going to say, take a cart to the forest, but that's like usually a different trip. I'm just going to say, like, that's usually you're taking a body or you're like doing other stuff. Like
I pushed my friend down a hill in a grocery cart once. There was alcohol involved, but she fell out and it was very bad. Anyway, that's for another day.
So yeah, Superstore. Where are you all at in your different like journeys of watching this show?
I'm sorry to say I'm episode 3 of season 1.
Okay. I'm episode 5 of season 1.
I'm in like season 4 somewhere.
Perfect.
Like, I've just been watching it whenever I just want something on that I don't have to pay too much attention to. I find the show hilarious.
It's so funny. Lisa Chen-Wing?
I did 3 episodes because my 2 friends, I have a TV watching club with my friends on the internet because they're my old roommates. And they said, so we've been watching Bridgerton because we just wanted something mindless because we were getting tired of talking to each other.
Yeah.
So now we just watch TV and they're like, oh, you have to watch Superstore. It is so funny. And these are 2 friends who, when I was roommates with them, they got in a long conversation with my father about Gilmore Girls. And I felt really left out of this conversation. So I started watching Gilmore Girls as a way to relate to my father.
Your dad watched it and you didn't?
Yes.
I love this. I love this so much.
So I started watching Gilmore Girls, and these are my 2 old roommates who said, you have to start watching Superstore. So I started watching it. And then Andrea Gin was like, hey, can you come on the podcast because you used to work at Superstore? I was like, okay, I'll do the homework. So I started watching. I've been jumping around too because I wanted to see like the most recent episode because even though that one's not on Netflix, you can get it streaming on Global. So I've watched that one, so I know what's going to happen next.
Ooh.
Very exciting. So yeah, I've jumped around a whole bunch, and my friend Reika said season 3 is the best season.
Nice.
Yeah.
And
But season 3 was amazing.
I love these sort of like shows that have a chance to kind of grow. Like I just like Parks and Rec, like season 1, no, it's not great. But by the middle of season 2, it starts to get so good. And then season 3, mwah, beautiful. I think Schitt's Creek also got really good in season 3. That was like a real turning point for the show. And there's so many shows that sort of like, if they just get a chance, they really like find their footing and their rhythm, you know, after the first season.
Well, that's a perfect, I mean, I think the perfect analogy is people always talk about Seinfeld, because
Oh yeah, that's right.
the show that you watch by the end is nowhere near what started. And they said the same thing. If it had just been canceled right away, you know, they wouldn't have been able to work through all the, because I think we need a chance to get to know these characters and start being like, oh, you know, when you see something coming, like it's like watching the other offshoot of Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, because you see a scenario coming and you're like, oh no, I know, you know, you can sense what the character is going to do. So I think it's as much about the writing and the actors as it is you, the viewer. So by season 3, if you're really into a show, I'm not trying to sound pathetic that I've been alone a lot, but they do kind of start to be your friends, right? These are people whose lives you understand, you expect the certain mannerisms they're going to make, and that takes a while to take shape.
It's so interesting how shows like Schitt's Creek and this show, like I didn't start watching this until the last season, and that's the same with a lot of people in Schitt's Creek. And it's so interesting that like so many people they only get their TV from like Netflix or, you know, other online TV, and they kind of miss these network TV shows until they get added to.
But if you don't watch it right from the beginning, I've actually had that thought. I remember when The Good Fight started, and then I heard it was good, and I'm like, I'm not going to watch it now. I'll just wait till it gets to Netflix. And sure enough, it did. So, like, you just know, because if you don't stay with it, like, who's got once a week who's going to watch a show? It's crazy. I mean, I've done it, but it's a weird thing to do now.
But at the same time, these traditional network sitcoms are built so that you can dip in and dip out. Unlike like a 10 episode series, limited series, where you have to watch it in order. Like I got Succession on the library, and you have
Succession. Oh my god!
Gosh, I love that show so much.
And such a different feeling from Superstore. It's like dealing with the ultra wealthy versus the working class, minimum wage earners. But even 22 episodes is such a beast to try to get through, and it's daunting. And I'm not used to watching 22 episodes of something because I haven't been watching network TV in so long. But it's like having those structures built is very different from how people are making television contemporarily, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Even though this is technically contemporary television, like its last episode is tomorrow, technically. Like this is a show that, like, when I was putting together the outline, like, you can see the critics really championing it from the end of season 1. Like, it is, there was, one of the writers said, it's become a running joke in the writer's room that we're always mentioned as, quote, one of the best shows you're not watching, instead of just one of the best shows. It's like, oh man, that's gotta like both sting and feel good, but it's so complicated because you obviously need an audience to watch your show and care about it, particularly in a network environment, because that's, you know, advertising dependent, right? So but I do think that like having it streaming on both Netflix and Amazon at this point really does give Superstore this like incredibly wider and larger audience to like have that sort of fervor around it and keep it alive, which I'm kind of grateful for, because like I don't want kids to just think like Friends is like the epitome of all, like, and I'm not dissing Friends, but like I want them to have a show like Superstore that just I think is much more reflective and inclusive and interesting and challenging and still incredibly funny. So, favorite characters. I know that everyone's at different stages of sort of consumption, but Lisa Chen-Wing is our guest. can you talk about sort of like your favorite character so far?
I really like Sandra because I can relate to her. She seems kind of slow, but then she's also super evil.
That's my favorite character too. Sandra is an icon. Sandra and Mateo, like they're the best.
Yes. My kids love, well, one of my children loves Glenn because I've been watching so much of it. And they're home for spring break. They've also been watching a lot of it, which comes to some awkward conversations about what's a boner and whatnot. But
I'm going to have to go with Glenn just because my Canadian roots are showing. Kids in the Hall. It's good to see Mark McKinney.
Dave Foley shows up.
Obviously Dave Foley would. I remember years of watching News Radio, which was another favorite sitcom. Did anyone else News Radio?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when Dave Foley was on that, I was like, oh, look at. But now we're bored of Canadians showing up. So look at Schitt's Creek.
I am a big fan of Lauren Ash as Dina.
Yeah.
Dina.
And she's also Canadian.
Is she?
Oh, what?
Interesting.
Come on. There we go.
Have you gotten to the Halloween episode yet?
No, I just watched the episode where he dies on a blue couch, which is why I'm the blue couch for my name tag right now.
I became Glenn. You can see mine right there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I know.
Dina gets funnier and funnier.
I believe it. Like, I mean, and she, the woman who played Lauren Ash, who plays her, apparently has a podcast with her mom where they like talk about true crime and make cocktails and something. I don't know. Apparently it started this year, I think. Anyway, I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm excited to check it out. I do love Mateo though, too. Like, I mean, he's been great so far. And obviously, like, America Ferrera and Ben Feldman are wonderful too, but like honestly, like there's not like a flawed person in the whole cast. Like the casting seems and feels pretty spot on. Like Colton Dunn, like he was like the stoned animal welfare employee on Parks and Rec as well, and he was so funny on that. I just like think about the time when he was like talking about having to like kill all the birds. Anyway, he's so good in this, and I love to see like him behind the mic, like just kind of screwing with people. It makes me so happy.
It is kind of funny when they do these ensemble casts now in these shows, because most of the time you're looking to see what they were in before. And just now, when I clicked on Ben Feldman, I was like, of course he was Mad Men.
Yeah, he was.
But he had that mustache. Yes. He did not look. I mean, it's just watching all of them is just going through all of the other things that they've done before, which is pretty funny. Because a big cast, actually.
It's a huge cast. I am really like impressed, and looking at the recurring characters that keep coming up. And I know you guys were talking about Sandra as like one of your favorites. I'm really excited because apparently seasons 5 and 6 she becomes like a full cast member. So that's really exciting because like I think we've only met her like really briefly in the first 5 episodes.
Yeah, that's what I think, because like I think they intended for her to be just a recurring character, like a side character at the beginning of the series, and she has become like so hilarious and just like so strong on the show that they've made her like part of the regular cast. Yeah, I think she worked her way into it.
Totally. No, it's recurring 1 through 4 and then like regular seasons 5 and 6. And that's like a testament to like, especially like someone who's like cast as a recurring character and then can like work their way up into regular cast. That's incredible.
Yeah. I mean, I look for Sandra scenes like every time I watch an episode now.
The other kind of thing that's like a little bit interesting right now, and I couldn't stop thinking about it, and then I saw some pieces written about it, of course, is that like in the last year we've really come to sort of like rethink how we treat big box workers and like store workers and people that are now obviously on the front line of a pandemic. Which is, this is not the original environment in which Superstore was created, but like, I think it has always made a pretty strong case for like the importance of, the job that people are doing. Like its humor is never super mean spirited. You know what I mean? And like the employees of the store are never the butts of like jokes that are, disparaging what they do or the value of what they do. But I'm really excited because I know that they do delve into actually dealing with the pandemic for their sixth season.
Yeah.
I was I don't know if you guys read this, and I'm not going to quote the whole thing, but I would just love to sort of like, this is something that I think all of us care about in various ways, but just like the way that the show sort of like tells stories of labor and unionization and the sort of like representation. So anyway, there's this really great piece by Vulture writer Catherine Van Arendonk. Van Arendonk. What a great last name. And they write about how and why Superstore is the only show that they trust to tell a coronavirus story. And I'm not going to like read the whole thing, but just like one of the it's talking about Superstore. They built a long-running plot about unionization and labor rights for years, small developments and big setbacks across long-simmering arcs, and managing to do it in ways that feel legitimately character-driven rather than self-satisfied and thematically neat. For example, when Amy got pregnant, spoiler, sorry, the show included a plot about medical coverage and maternity leave. They also do a big story about Mateo, who's an undocumented immigrant, and involving ICE and having him be detained by ICE, and like talking about sort of like the when giant corporations take over those sort of smaller retail chains and what happens under like companies like Amazon and things like that. So I really love that, like, a show that wants to put the work in about like the sort of realities facing workers at this workplace. And I think that's where it's really different from The Office. Like The Office sort of like, I think it gave us like sort of like a slightly more sort of like like a utopia of like the office as your family and like a substitute for your family. Whereas I think Superstore actually wants to deal with actual things about the people who show up to work there. And yes, you deal with things together in a workplace, but it's not like this sort of, so far at least from what I've seen, this sort of like cliched substitute for family in like the way a lot of sitcoms do.
Yeah, the health insurance thing is like an ongoing thing that's like written into all the seasons because like there's a pharmacy there, and like the workers there, when they can't afford drugs, like the pharmacist kind of slides them some maybe expired stuff that he has kicking around the store. And like there's just subtle plot lines like that where that run through the seasons that like on the surface seem like they're just amusing things that happen during the course of the day, but then like as they add up you realize it's like a portrait of America.
I found really interesting too on the healthcare stuff, the amount of conversation there is about abortion is a lot because the Glenn character is so anti-abortion. There's one episode where he goes and buys all the Plan B from the pharmacy and then realizes after he pays for it that it's $50 a package. Fantastic. But they talk about abortion a lot.
And it's not
Americans do talk about it a lot. I mean,
but it's great. Like even in the first like 5 episodes, there's that line about Cheyenne. She's like, yeah, I didn't plan to be pregnant, but I couldn't get a ride to Planned Parenthood. And then they have a whole like little sort of like a riff on it and I just thought, oh, this is like kind of amazing. Like this is like just acknowledging abortion as like a real inaccessible thing for like some people, and then that is how you end up sort of like in Cheyenne's situation, being 17 and 6 months pregnant, and like this guy that is a white rapper. And I mean, the idea that they're getting a spin-off show, I don't know if it's gotten the green light for sure yet. Like I know that there's like in talks for them to have their own.
But their characters must develop further than what I've seen and you've seen to be considered for a spin-off.
Apparently he's only in 13 episodes throughout the entire series. So like I don't know that he could necessarily get the biggest chance to develop. I mean, AG, does Cheyenne's boyfriend?
No, he's a pretty one-note character from what I've seen so far. Cheyenne is way more like has way more development over the series.
Okay. So she could carry her own like spin-off. Like that would be fine. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
Okay. I'm fascinated by the idea of it though. Like I'm also like just
it's also like a little like it can get dark, but it's also like I was just thinking of, you know, Cheyenne's storyline when you were describing her boyfriend, because there's like one episode where she mentions that she has like this other sort of suitor, and Amy of course is like, you know, what's he like, you know, and she's like describes him as being like, you know, really smart and reads books and stuff like that. And so Amy, of course, is just like encouraging her to like go with this other dude. And she brings the other dude to the store and finds out that like he's her high school teacher.
Oh no.
He's really smart. He reads books.
Oh no.
And it's just the most awful, awkward thing. But yeah, but I find that like that's what the show does really well too. It's just like it's dark. It can be dark, but it doesn't feel like it.
Boy.
Yeah. Like I feel like it's willing to go all the places, as long as like the it's true to the character and that the joke is worth it. And that's like kind of a better approach than some sitcoms that I've seen.
Do you think though that, like, I mean, we've talked about you know, pandemic binging. Like, I didn't watch Community before the pandemic, and then I just went through that really quickly, and I watched all of Parks and Rec, and you know, I've been dabbling back in shows I've watched before. But do you think that, like what you were suggesting, that, you know, we've learned a lot about how people in retail and how we really should see them as frontline workers now? Do you think that's been some of the push towards Superstore?
Maybe. Like, I don't know. To me personally, it feels like it's just a show that it really was that sort of like the best show people aren't watching kind of thing. Like it gets.
But there's been a lot of options for our viewership this
No, I know, but
pandemic.
when you have something that's like 5 seasons, that's like really funny, consistently well rated, and is there, that's like really ripe for discovery. Like if a bunch of people haven't watched it, 5 seasons of something it feels kind of good. Like it's not daunting to people anymore. People aren't like, oh, 5 seasons, what am I gonna do? People are like, 5 seasons, thank God. Like we've got, you know, I have been at home.
It's like Lisa in the store, just mindlessly pushing that cart.
Just gotta push that cart. Yeah. Like, and I think like that's honestly like one of the reasons that I was kind of weirdly thrilled, even though I'm not a better person for it, and I certainly don't think it's good for me. Plus all the whole, like, I don't really, you know, I like a lot of crime shows, but I don't really like a lot of the sort of like cop involvement. But like watching a show like Criminal Minds, now that it's like on the Disney app through the Stars network that they've added to it, like I have 14 seasons of Criminal Minds, I think, that I can like go through. Am I going through it? Yes. Is it dark in my world? It sure is. Am I balancing that out with both Superstore and a rewatch of Cougar Town at the same time? Hell yeah. Oh. And Firefly Lane.
Wow.
Folding it all in.
Oh my goodness.
What a potpourri.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That's
quite
like
a recipe.
That booze thing, you know, you make the SHIT mix when you're stealing from your parents' liquor cabinet. That's what you've done. You're just drunk and crazy.
Honestly, yeah, it's yeah. My watching habits are wildly varied right now.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
So Lisa Chen-Wing, back to your experience working in the Superstore.
Yes.
There's like a lot of hooking up going on in the series amongst employees. Is that like a realistic, you know, thing based on your experience? That were there a lot of romances going on in the Superstore?
I think so. I know that the manager that I had was married to another manager, so definitely there were hookups going on. I can't speak to any of that from my experience, but I know there are definitely a lot of corners of the store, and a lot of people work at late nights.
A lot of corners of the store. That's
just like during working hours. Okay, well.
But I also know that we, like, everyone knew where the cameras were, and sometimes you could get a glimpse of the security room where they had all the cameras. And there was a woman that I worked with who got fired for taking a $20 bill out of the till because there was a camera on her.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also just like, I don't know, having worked in any kind of retail before, there's just not a lot to sort of like turn you on. Like, it's fine if you have someone to flirt with in the workplace. Like that, I can see how that might get like a little bit like sort of, tempting. But like just dealing with people all the time. Like, I love in Superstore every time the camera just shows us another snippet of a customer doing some
that's my
god awful
favorite.
thing. It's so great. And it's so smart. And sometimes it's really innocent and innocuous, and other times it is just like yikers, But I love it all the time. I mean, like, these kinds of stories, like, they make me grateful not to work with the public much anymore. 'Cause
Yeah.
but I mean, definitely I like really respect everyone who does work with the public so much. But Lisa Chen-Wing, do you ever miss like working with the public?
I 100% do not miss working with the public,
Yeah.
and I don't really miss working in an office either. But I do find that having worked in retail, like I worked in fast food, I worked at the Superstore, I worked all sorts of retail. I feel so like I just want to do so much for the people who work there.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to like tell a joke, be like an overly enthusiastic customer with the irony of them knowing that I'm not really into that. Just having like understanding how boring it is to stand at a till all day long and do the same motions and know your keypad really quickly and know all the codes. It just gives me so much. I'm so grateful for all of those people that I want to just be kind to them and tip them if I can and just, clean up after myself.
I've been the person who has had people be rude to them so many times, and or just like had people be like inappropriate to you or like whatever. Like, it's just like there's just so many different ways to like conduct yourself in public, and it seems like a lot of people don't know how. And it also seems like that there's like this idea that like, I don't know, there's a writer, Mickey Kendall, and she talks a lot about how she really rejects the idea that like fast food workers are like, it's a low skill employment, because like it's actually like incredibly skilled to turn around cooking.
It's
and
multitasking
food. It's like,
all the time.
multitasking
Yeah.
and so much.
Yeah.
It's incredibly skilled labor, and just like this idea that it's like unskilled labor is usually an excuse to like, pay people less, and particularly pay like, people of color and young people less, and pay, sort of like immigrants less. It's just always such an excuse to pay people less money. And I just like, I think it would be very useful for our society and culturally to like really reconsider what is skilled labor and what is not skilled labor. And I just think it all is skilled in different ways. Like, it's yeah. So we love to end our episode on sort of like our evaluation.
Yeah.
Does Superstore pop?
Yes.
Yes. 100%.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow. Did you have to think about that?
I've had some personal issues with it, but we're ending the episode. I'm going to go right in my diary.
No, wait.
No, we can talk about
Wait,
your
we want to
personal
hear your
issues.
personal issues.
Yeah, I want to hear your personal issues.
One of the things that I really like about the show is the racial diversity of it, but I looked up to see how diverse the writer's room was, and it is not that diverse. And it really shows in how the characters, from my point of view, how the characters interact. Because like there are, there's one article about how there are two Latina writers, which both of them said, this is the first time this has ever happened to me. And they were talking about a joke that they got on the show that was for Latina people who understand Spanish. And that joke was really funny. But there was the character Myrtle that Andrea Gin referenced. Is she doesn't have many lines, but a lot of the lines that she has are just inserting racism as a joke, which is a very like kind of like liberal attitude, like I'm enlightened, so then I can use racism ironically, and it's totally okay because I'm not really racist. I'm just putting these racist words into a woman's mouth and having her say them, and that's totally fine because we all know I'm joking. But I feel like that is not really something I want to hear so much because, you know, I experience racism all the time. I'm tired of it. And I don't need to feel like someone's being ironic about it. So like there are moments like that are not my favorite. And then they have things like where Jonah steps on it and like tries to say something that like maybe a Black person say, like referencing Martin Luther King, and the Garrett character says, nope, don't do that. And they have that voice saying, cutting it down. But then like, and also because of the recent episodes in Atlanta and everyone's saying stop Asian hate, when there's like anti-Asian racism, there isn't the same knocking down of it, which like there are like mixed race characters on the show. There's Mateo who plays Filipino, but it's not the same recognition that racism is also bad. It's like, oh, that racism is kind of funny because that's how we live. But other than that, totally pops.
I think that's a really valid critique.
Those were all, I can't believe you were going to hold all of that in. Like that.
I'd so much rather hear that.
Boy, that's like burying the lead. Holy cow.
But I mean, so much of like, so many situations in pop culture are like, okay, well, aside from like these things that like really don't align with my values, or like, frankly, that should align with anyone's values at this point, it's good, you know? And you have to like, it's so frustrating to have to sort of like make those exceptions in the things that we watch to sort of like, you know, identify the racism, identify the like whatever, the homophobia, identify X, Y, and Z. And then, you know, but we don't really like, there's not a lot of choice sometimes in that, because that's a lot of the comedy that exists. And it's very frustrating. So that sucks. Well, thank you for that. And I'm so glad that you didn't keep that
me
away
too.
from us, because
Gosh,
that's vital. We love to leave our episodes on something we recommend. Lisa Chen-Wing as our guest. Would you love how everyone's last name gets added in today because I have to specify the Lisas.
You can't even see LC.
Nope. I refuse. Would you like to go first with something you recommend?
Sure. I have two things related to how I'm feeling as a mixed race Asian woman. First one that I've been asking all my friends, have you read Minor Feelings, An Asian American Reckoning, which is by Kathy Park Hong. She's a poet, and she wrote a book that came out 2020 probably, about her feelings as a poet and an Asian American woman, how she feels in society. And she has this really great chapter about her friends, two of her friends that she went to Oberlin with, and just talking about how like they felt like they were creating an art movement, which is usually provenance of white men, but she and her friends were artists together. I also really liked Amber Ruffin's. I just saw the clip on Twitter, How Did We Get Here, where she talks about violence against Asian Americans in the most lighthearted way possible that you could talk about a subject like that. So I've been in my feelings a lot.
Those are great recommendations. Thank you so much. Lisa Christiansen, would you like to go next?
Yes. So I am reading this science fiction novel from 2016 called The Power by Naomi Alderman. Has anyone heard of it?
No.
Neither had I, and I can barely put it down. I'm actually going to leave here and go back and read it. So it is this fantastic story. All of these women have developed an electrical power that they can use to do all kinds of things. First of all, it starts with 15-year-old girls. It just all of a sudden begins, and they have this power, and they can pass it on to other women. And suddenly, women are not the victims or powerless to anyone anymore. In fact, they are 100 times more powerful than any man on the planet.
Interesting.
You know, when I first started reading it, I actually had to sit back for a while just going, holy cow, what would this change? Like, you know, just my friend and I'm at her house the other night, and the thing that women say to each other if you're leaving is text me when you get home. Like that is, we know that line so well. We don't even know how to feel weird about that anymore.
Nope.
I actually saw it as a needlepoint and, just to this irreverent needlepoint company. And I thought, oh my gosh, you don't have to text when you get home anymore because you are literally electricity and you can kill people instantly if you wanted to.
Wow.
So anyway, it's The Power. I've got to say, this is amazing. Naomi Alderman.
Awesome. Thank you. That sounds great. AG?
So I started this book called Mexican Gothic.
I've
Yay!
heard.
I have that at home too.
Yeah, Sylvia Moreno Garcia. And it's like a Gothic horror novel about this woman whose cousin thinks her husband is trying to murder her. And I haven't finished the book yet, but so far it's super engrossing and I highly recommend it.
Isn't that one of your favorite kind of genres? Like you like those southern novels? Yeah.
Gothic horror.
Sylvia's from Vancouver.
Yes.
Yeah, I saw them read at a Growing Room event like a number of years ago, and I was just like, how does this person live here and I don't know their work? And yeah, I'm really excited to read it. Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to recommend, this is an article that has just stuck with me this past week and a bit. As we've mentioned, in light of the Stop Asian Hate and the massacre of so many Asian women in Atlanta, Nicole Chung is a great writer and she was one of the editors of The Toast for a long time. And she has a book called All You Can Ever Know. And she has written this piece for Time magazine. And the title is a bit long, but it says, "My white adoptive parents struggled to see me as Korean. Would they have understood my anger at the rise in anti-Asian violence?" And it's a wonderful piece. It's you can read it at Time. And I just wanted to particularly read this small, tiny excerpt that she writes. "The truth is that it is entirely possible to love and care for one Asian American, quote unquote, your Asian American, and not see other Asians as equally fully human." And she just, it's a really wonderful piece. But she talks about, just what it might have been like to have these conversations with her adoptive family, and her lack of surprise at finding out that the shooter had an adoptive Vietnamese brother. And it's a great piece. And
I don't think it was the shooter. I think it was the cop.
Oh, I'm so sorry. No, the cop. I'm so sorry. You're right. Okay. That's good. A good correction. Thank you. But yeah. Anyway, great piece, and I highly recommend it.
Wow, this is a heavy end to our show here. Lots of wow.
Love it.
Yes.
Love it. Love to go in thinking we're just going to talk about people banging in a Superstore, and
with lots of chips. One does get hungry.
So thank you so much, Lisa Chen-Wing, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for bringing back the memories of the 90s. I thought I buried them completely.
Anytime.
No, we'll resurrect them all for you.
Yep. Do you want anyone to be able to come and find you, online or through social, or would you prefer people just stay away but appreciate you from afar?
Yeah, I have lots of websites, but my name is fairly unique, so you can Google Lisa Chen-Wing. But mostly, I think check out my webcomic, Whiny Whiny Pancakes, on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and my website. And that's probably the best way to see my work.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Everyone, thank you again. You can hang out with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You could rate and review us 5 stars on iTunes. You can play us on Spotify. I think you can hang out with us on Stitcher. There's so many places. Whatever you want, you listen to us however you like.
And thanks again to Andrea Gin, our producer and our co-host right now. By right now, I guess I mean forever. I don't know. Who knows?
I don't think we should ever let her get away from the microphone.
No.
Yeah.
Actually, I didn't read the piece, but there was a piece in Vulture, I think, today. So that's a week in the past about how producers of podcasts don't get enough love and respect. So I just want to be the one to say that I hope that doesn't come from this team. So
not at all.
Excellent. Yeah. Good. So I was going to tweet to someone, hey, We love ours so much, we made her co-host. But I don't know if that was going to add to the conversation.
Now we make her do twice the work that
Yeah,
she used
exactly.
to do.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
she loves it.
But thanks so much, and lovely to see sort of everyone here.
And thank you, Lisa Chen-Wing, for joining us.
Yes,
Thanks
thank
for joining
you.
us.
Thank you.